Hello. Welcome to Total Truth Show episode 52. Today we're going to be chatting with Dr. Scott Fox all about the truth about how to get busy living. My name is Aldwyn Altuney from the Gold Coast in Australia.
And my name is Ken Kleinberg, and I'm coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego County, California.
And I'm Dr. Scott Fox from all the way down at Brisbane, Australia. I'll whichever way I want to look at it. Thanks,
And
guys,
we'll
for
be
inviting me.
right back after this short introduction.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show, hosted by myself, Ken Kleinberg from San Diego County, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
And our goal here on this show is to help you to break away from the mainstream media propaganda and lies, the disinformation and misinformation that's out there in the mainstream, and really help you to start questioning everything and start doing the research for yourself. We want to punch through all of that disinformation and misinformation. Our goal here is to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass and then pave the way for a new awakened civilization. And we would love for you to come along for the ride. Don't take our word for it. The things that we share here on the show, that goes for our guests too. Start doing the research for yourself. Start going and asking the questions for yourself. Get out there and really find the real truth behind things. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Yes, welcome aboard. Welcome wherever you're joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are. Welcome. I can see on Instagram we've got John Perry, Dinesh, we've got Captain Brad, Tristan, Susan. Welcome. Let us know, where are you joining us from? If you're joining us live, where are you joining us from? And we'd love to hear from you too through this episode. What do you do to make the most of your life, to get busy living, which is going to be our topic today, of course, with the amazing Dr. Scott Fox. And in fact, he interviewed me just the other day on his podcast, which is called Get Busy Livin, on episode 10. You might want to check that out to hear my top tips on that one. And soon he'll be interviewing Ken as well, which will be a great show. So a little bit about our amazing guest. Founder and licensed acupuncturist. He is a Chinese herbalist at Sixth Sense Acupuncture for Fertility. He's an all-round legendary guy who I've bumped in over many, many years at different networking events, including at Ed Zia's more recently in Brisbane. Shout out to Ed Zia as well. Welcome aboard, Scott.
Thank you very much for inviting me, guys. I'm looking forward to this. This is a fantastic opportunity to speak the truth. And I get it.
Yes. Absolutely. And great to have my co-host, of course, who lost 22 kilos over 6 years and has kept it off. Extraordinary. And Ken's done many topics, discussions around how he's done that, and actually helps people with that too now. However, with you, Scott, now I'm curious, acupuncture and Chinese herbalist, how did you get into that field?
So as a teenager, I trained in martial arts, Taekwondo, and our teacher taught us a bit of hand Korean acupuncture. So just like reflexology, they use the foot as a map of the body. Well, the Koreans use the hand as a map of the body. So, you get injuries, you get punching each other, kicking each other. And I'd stab myself with the needles in my hands and the pain would go away immediately. The same if I got the flu or something like that. I'd do some points for the flu, and the flu would dissipate very quickly. So that's my first introduction into Chinese medicine.
Amazing. And martial arts is so powerful. And I love the book Power versus Force. And when you look at the Karate Kid and you look at the power that happened at the end of the Karate Kid as opposed to the force, it's incredibly powerful. And it's amazing with acupuncture. I've had it done quite a few times. It's amazing how powerful, when you get the right meridian lines, etc., how that can be. However, often I must say I've also had a little bit of bleeding with acupuncture. Is that normal from where the pins go in?
Yeah, so I wanted to squash a few fallacies about the needles themselves. So the needles themselves, the needles that I use anyway, are 0.25 of a mil thick. So they're very thin. So the needles that the nurses and doctors use, the dermal needles they're called, the ones that they give injections with, they're 3 mil thick. So it doesn't even come close. And they're not hollow either. The acupuncture needle is solid. So it can't, they're not designed to penetrate an artery, whereas a dermal needle is designed to penetrate an artery. So when the needle comes out, that's when it can bleed. Yeah, that's when you would have noticed the blood coming out. Is that right, Aldwyn?
Yes, just a tiny droplet. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's happened is it's probably gone into a vein. So arteries take the blood to the extremities, to the hands and feet, and then the veins bring the blood back to the heart. So the arteries have got a really thick wall. So it's really hard to penetrate them. That's why you have to have such a large needle. So when the acupuncture needle has gone in, it's probably bounced up against an artery, but you'll notice that they're very flexible. You can actually bend them right over 90 degrees. So even if it does hit an artery, it will just bounce off it. But a vein, the walls are really thin. So if the acupuncture needle goes into the artery, to the vein, then yeah, it can penetrate the vein, but it's very minimal blood. Is that right? Is that what you
Yeah,
noticed?
it was a little droplet just occasionally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's penetrated a vein. So it's very, very safe.
Got
That's
it.
the
And
truth.
what is it good for? So we've got fertility here, which I actually went when I was looking to get fertile. I've kind of given up on that idea now. I'm about to turn 50 in 6 days, so I'm not stressed about that anymore. However, I did get acupuncture a few times. Time when I was looking to be fertile. Unfortunately, the guy I was with was a bit of a doozy. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So back to being single again, and obviously I wasn't meant to have children. Well, up until now, anyway, I could still have children. But what else is it good for other than fertility?
So so in the ancient times, just to talk about that. So you've got one more week to go. So you probably still could, because in the ancient books,
yeah,
in the
I still
ancient books,
Hmm.
in the ancient books, they say that men work in 9-year cycles and women work in 7-year cycles. So the end of they call it the blood period. So there's from the age of 14 to 49, you should menstruate. That's what they say,
Yes,
and that was 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
am. And actually, my mum did up until 55, actually. So people can go quite late, right?
Yeah, so they were very exact. They'll if this doesn't happen, there must be something wrong. So see what I'm saying? So you still got another week. It's all good, Aldwyn. But acupuncture is great for many different problems, especially chronic disease and especially pain. It's fantastic for pain.
Okay. So I've got 6 days to have as much sex as possible and see how we go. All right. So, look, it's
Wow.
been a while. I've probably even forgotten how to do it at this stage. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. Now, Ken, have you ever had acupuncture done yourself?
No, I have not. No. I don't. Me and needles really don't really get along. The only thing I am thinking about possibly doing sometime in the future, and I don't even know what that's going to look like, is maybe getting a small tattoo. But I'm a little skittish with that, even so, because back in the day when I had my ear gauged, I skipped a couple sizes at one time and went to the guy to stretch it. And he was a guy that I really trusted. I went in there. I wasn't nervous at all. I was relaxed and everything else. Well, midway through the process, he noticed that my face was turning ghost white. And again, I was relaxed. I totally trusted him. I'd been to him before. He had stretched my ear before, but this time I was skipping 2 sizes. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I said to him, I said, I don't know. I said, and I was starting to get clammy. I said, I don't know. Maybe we should take a small break. And he's like, you want to take a break? And I'm like, yes, yeah, let's take a small break. And in the process of doing that, he literally told me, he's like, there's about 5 or 10 seconds worth of time that I wasn't responding to him. So I probably kind of passed out from it, but it was just a body reaction to it. I mean, and like I said, I went to him because I'm comfortable with him. So I wasn't nervous at all. So it's interesting that I want to try out a tattoo. I don't know what that's going to look like, if I'm going to pass out or whatever, but I'm not going to get anything crazy major, just maybe something that maybe takes an hour or two, just something real basic to start off there with. But I am curious. So.
Well, I have no tattoos. I think I'm about the only one left as a clean skin out there. What about you, Scott? Have you got any tattoos?
No, but I stab myself just about every day.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay, now today's topic.
Actually, if you want to, I can explain why you actually passed out.
Oh, okay. Yes, please.
Sure.
So what actually happens is that it's the second mechanism of action. So what happens is that it's the midbrain. So the midbrain sits at the base of the brain at the top of the spinal cord, and it takes in all that sensory information. So it's getting a pain signal from the needle, but it doesn't know why. And what happens is it thinks the worst. It thinks that it doesn't know. Sorry, it doesn't know if it's a 12-inch knife or a little pin. So it thinks the worst, which is the 12-inch knife. So what actually happens is the heart rate speeds up. So you go into a mini fight or flight. So your heart rate speeds up, but the blood vessels open up as well.
Interesting.
Now, the what can happen is if you have this, that's why I asked you earlier about the low blood pressure. So that people with low blood pressure, what happens is there's too much labor on the heart, and the heart goes, I can't pump enough blood because all the blood vessels are open. And the brain takes up 30% of our blood capacity. And if it's not getting enough blood, it'll do what happened to you. It'll just shut down.
Interesting.
But then after about 10 minutes, it figures it out. Figures out, it wasn't a 12-inch knife like we thought it was. It was just a little pin. So what happens is the heart rate slows down, but the blood vessels stay open. And that's why you feel euphoric normally after a acupuncture.
That's really fascinating.
Yes.
Now,
it's all about blood flow. It's all about blood flow.
Very interesting.
So throw the meridians and chi out the window.
Now, I do have an interesting question around low blood pressure. Now, I have no clue if I have low blood pressure, but wouldn't that affect my stamina and exercise ability when I'm doing heavy cardio?
Normally I notice, under exertion, sometimes you'll get faint. That's what normally can happen.
You see, I have a very, very, very advanced extreme cardio routine that I do. By the way, it's never on a machine. It is very, very creative, very, very unique, to the point to where I have been asked many, 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 many times if I'm going on one of those special shows. Like, what are you training for? What are you doing? And stuff like that. You going on Ninja Warrior? And because I got all kinds of stuff that I do. And I very easily maintain that. I usually get my heart rate up to in between 155 and 165. And I maintain that at steady state. And it's usually for those type of workouts, it's usually around 45 minutes worth. And usually when I get done, I feel amazing. Sometimes I'm a little exhausted. If I really had to kind of push myself, if I'm having an off day and I had to kind of push myself, then I'll be a little exhausted. But for the most part, I very easily do that. And I love the rush. So how does that work in?
Well, it's sometimes, it doesn't always. Also with weightlifting, it can happen as well, because you're putting so much pressure on the heart, especially the big weightlifters, the power lifters they're called.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Bodybuilders, powerlifters. Yeah.
Yeah, some of them have to stop because they pass out because their heart just can't handle it. So yeah, it can happen. It doesn't happen all the time, but yeah, it can happen. But like I said, the body goes into a fight or flight. When the body goes into a fight or flight, that's when it can happen because the heart just can't deal with the load.
Fascinating. Yeah, makes sense to me. Absolutely. Well, we're talking about getting busy living here today. So obviously keeping the heart going is a pretty crucial part, right? I always say to people, if you're feeling a bit stressed, just keep breathing. Okay. That's the main thing. Just keep breathing. And also be careful about the words that you use. Now, recently, a good friend of mine, a lady called Debbie Cliff, she was caught, unfortunately, in the Cairns floods. She lost everything in the Cairns floods 1 week before Christmas, 2023. And she said, as she went out for her first walk in a long time on the 28th of December, she has this on her Facebook feed, that she said it was heartbreaking to see. It was like a war zone, what happened with the Cairns floods and how people lost so many possessions. There were mattresses out on the street and it was just mud through the houses, etc. And on New Year's Day, she died of a heart attack. Whoa. New Year's Day, 65 years of age, absolutely devastating. And she said it's heartbreaking. Now, she had other health issues, etc. But, a third of people die by the age of 65. And for me, this was yet another reminder of how important it is to make the most of your life, whatever that is. And now I've personally had depression. I've had 4 friends take their own lives by the age of 45. What we've seen through COVID is we've seen 4 times the suicide rates. A lot of people not coping mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in any which way over the absolute pandemic and traumas that have happened from the pandemic, which we often call it on this show. And if you want to know what's going on in the world, follow the money trail, my friends. Follow the money trail. Who's profiting from what has been going on in the world? And I think really there's full-on warfare going on right now. There is warfare on all those levels. So when we talk about how to get busy living, I think now more than ever, this is absolutely crucial. How to get busy living. What does it mean to you to make the most of your life? So Scott, over to you. What does that mean for you? How to get busy living for you?
Yeah, so just help as many people as possible, especially in the community, because I'm going to get controversial here. So the pandemic basically has also got its benefits too, because what has happened is now there is a community that is forged together and got their minds together. Yeah, that's right, Ken. People don't want to deal with the hierarchy that have taken over and are feeding us rubbish and basically trying to control our lives. And which is, as I said, there is a benefit from it, but because now people are realizing, they're starting to wake up. They're starting to understand.
Hell yeah. Amen. Amen. And praise the Lord to that.
Amen.
They're starting to listen outside of what's the box that they're watching every night. Tell them. And that's the problem is, and that's what I'm trying to say, is that these new communities that are popping up, and I'm associated with a few of them, and it's enlightening. It makes me feel great that there is an answer. There is new communities coming through, and they're taking charge, and they're saying, hey, we don't want to be controlled by these stupid ideas, stupid methods of control. And we want to live. We want to be able to do what we want to do. And that's what we're put on this earth to do. We are all free beings. We are all, it's in our constitution, actually. It actually says that we have the power. Well, the states is the same. They have their constitution is very similar to ours. That we are all empowered beings from God, and that God gave us all the gift to be able to help each other and help every living being on earth. And you're a animal activist, Aldwyn. and that it not only just happens to us as human beings, but also we have been given domain over also anything that's living. So we have to look after those animals and also ourselves. But it comes back to one thing, and I just said it: we need to look after ourselves. And Ken, that losing that 30 kilos, brother, wow, like that's it. Like that's inspirational. If more people learned how to control the way they eat and what they eat, because we are bombarded every day. It's on every corner we go to.
Yes. Yep.
You can't avoid it. It's everywhere.
It definitely is. And the thing about it too is, so I don't know if you saw what I put up there. The Great Awakening.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Great Awakening.
I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love everything you're saying. And I 100% agree. And I really do believe that the scamdemic, the plandemic, honestly, the good part about it is it was a needed interruption for a lot of people. It was for me. And it was that interruption that actually birthed my own business, my brand, my company that I worked from, and gave me the passion, the awakening that I had during that period, which is when I took my red pill. And then did a whole bunch of deep dives on a bunch of different topics. Good Lord, my knowledge as far as the corruption and what's really going on out there is massive, but I am still learning more. But it was through that journey and through that research that I discovered another passion of mine and where I would make my stand. And that is in the deceptions of the health and wellness and food industry, the lies of the health and wellness food industry. And one of my passions is not just to help people to lose weight, but to now help them keep it off easily and sustainably, like I have done for 6 years. That's part one. Part two of what I do is the education part. The education around the harmful ingredients, the education around the deception of the marketing that they put in front of us all the time. On the front of boxes, they tout things as healthy when they're really not. They're relying on the fact that people are not going to take the time to turn it over and scour the ingredients and look at what it really is. 90% of the time, that's not food. And that's where I found, where I would take my stand within all of this and this great awakening, because there was a portion of me going, okay, how am I going to make a difference? How am I going? Well, I found it, because that is now one of my biggest passions. And you can tell, like, I get really worked up when I talk about this, is to expose the lies and deception of that industry and give people the tools that they can take with them for the rest of their lives to make more educated choices around food.
Absolutely.
That's the whole agenda, is basically to make us sick from what we eat, and then the answer is to give us a pill that makes us even sicker. It's a great business model. It's a great business model. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's not good for us.
No, the number of people I know that got the big C word after they got the jab and the multiple jabs is, in fact, they're the only ones I know that got the C word, was all those people that got the jab. And, if you did do it, you've got to make your choice for yourself based on what you know. And I'm sure everyone did the best they could under the circumstances. I know a lot of people did it that didn't want to do it, that felt forced to do it because they wanted to keep their jobs. They wanted to travel. They wanted to go to restaurants. They wanted, and then that all stopped in 3 months anyway. And then, in Australia anyway, it was opened up again, parts of Australia. In Melbourne, I mean, there should have been people that were crucified down there for what happened in Melbourne and other parts of the world. However, they will be dealing with their own karma in other ways, I'm sure, right?
They resigned. They resigned.
They're resigning because they're seeing the writing on the wall. Let's talk about class action lawsuits that are going to be coming in the future, for sure. These people are going to be held accountable. Employers are going to be held accountable for what they force their employees to do. It's coming, and I cannot wait. But see, here's the other thing to think about too for our listeners who maybe are just becoming slightly alert that something's not correct. Isn't it interesting how all of a sudden, if you've really been paying attention, isn't it interesting how all of a sudden, if you've seen an advertisement or two, where they are, in a sense, grooming your mind and desensitizing your mind. That's the word I want to use. Desensitizing your mind to the idea of young kids having heart conditions. Why all of a sudden is that coming out? Why all of a sudden also are people dying suddenly? These sudden deaths. Why all of a sudden are they on the rise? Interesting. I am just asking the question, and I'm going to pose that to our listeners. Why? Do the research for yourself.
Absolutely. I lost a lot of friends from cardiac arrest or heart attack in their 50s over COVID. My dad got shingles from it. We've had full-on censorship of information on Facebook and YouTube. We've had strikes of information that talk about anything controversial, that talks against the agenda. And I always say, if there's nothing to hide, why the censorship? And this show is about encouraging you to question everything. Don't take our word for it. Question everything. Do your own research and don't just Google it. Go on places like BitChute, Rumble, Signal, Telegram. There's alternative media that is not censored. Hallelujah. And thanks to COVID, Ken and I met through a networking event. And because of what happened, we started the Total Truth Show. And here we are, episode 52. We've never met in person. And that was a beautiful thing that came out of it. I know my friend Lynn Santa, she's been a crusader to end trophy hunting of endangered animals, elephants, lions, etc. And she did a documentary which has now won awards all over the world thanks to COVID. It wouldn't have happened in the way it went if it wasn't for that whole pandemic. So in some ways, yes, there have definitely been some negatives and there have been positives. And through the biggest depressions in history, we've also had the biggest breakthroughs. We've had people who've lost the most money and people who've made the most money in these periods as well. And that's another thing with the agenda. One of the agendas is you will own nothing and you will be happy. You will own nothing and you will be happy, my friends. And you will be sick and nearly dead. Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead. That's a good documentary, actually. Fat, Sick and nearly dead, and there's other agendas around that. They don't want to pay out the pension in Australia. We've got an aging population, right? There's definitely some other things at play here, and thank goodness we have more communities gathering, as Scott mentioned, the common law communities coming together, people knowing more about their rights as as God-given beings on the planet. And one way I get busy living, I must say, as you mentioned, animals and all beings, I connect with animals. I connect with my cat. I connect with birds. We have a bush turkey that has come to our property here in Southport that's been hanging around. Whatever animal it is, animals are present. They are in the moment. And one of the biggest challenges for people to get busy living is to get out of their head and into their heart. And that is a big tip I will give you to get busy living is, what is it that lights you up? What is it that gives you joy? And if you haven't done so far, if you haven't looked back at the last year, 2023, and actually written down 10 things you acknowledge yourself for from the last year, I recommend do that. I did a fantastic goal setting session the other day, and at the beginning of every year, I get pen to paper the old fashioned way. I've got my 2024 goals here written out. There it is. I have it in my diary, and I write in there what I want for my 2024, for my physical environment, my career and work, family, friends, financial security, fun and recreation, personal growth, relationships, and health and well-being. In all those areas, I write down what I want. And then I do my 10 big goals for 2024 as well. And I would encourage you to do that. Have a look at the last year. What can you acknowledge yourself for? What is it that really gives you joy, that lights you up? And how can you do more of that this year? And thank you so much for our live viewers. We've got Jeff Veal here, says Happy New Year's from Manila. Looking forward to more truth. Yes, Jeff, absolutely. We have on Instagram, we have Captain Brad is from Sydney. We've got Jeff Areno has joined us, Will the Wizard, Skin Essentials, Gold Coast, Siney Richardson, White Frenchie Bella. Thank you so much to all our viewers, whether you're coming here joining us from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Instagram. Please let us know in the chat, what are your top tips on how you get busy living? So what are some other tips for you, Scott? Back to you.
Okay, so actually it's in my health club. So I've got a health club on my website, and basically it's 20 years of information that I've gathered out and I've put into the website. And there's lots of different elements to how we look after ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we have to look after ourselves to be able to help others. And this is really hard, especially for the nurses. Poor old nurses are going to bag the nurses because they are professionally paid to look after others and not themselves. Think about that. So, so you need to spend time on yourself.
Yes.
You need to. I put 2 hours aside a day. What does that entail? Okay, walking. I meditate. I go through my affirmations, just like you, Aldwyn. What you just went through just then. I have my own affirmations, my own goals, and I repeat them over and over and over. I have scripts that I talk to myself about what I'm going to say, like on this podcast. But also just to try and empty your mind, because we have about 2 good thoughts, guys. 2 good thoughts every year. The rest is garbage. The rest is garbage. So have those. Try and minimize the chatter, and try and make those good thoughts come as often as you can. And that is not easy. It's easy to say, but it's very hard to do. And as I said, it doesn't only finish there, but it also, you have to be able to nourish yourself with the right energy. So, and like I said before, if you're it's really hard in today's society. Like our grandparents, they had no problem. There's no such thing as McDonald's, no such thing as KFC. And I was watching a documentary yesterday. No, not yesterday. It was on Sunday. Sorry. I follow Tucker Carlson. You probably might know him, Ken. He's huge in the States. And he interviewed a gentleman, Cullen Mark, I think his name was. And he pointed out that from 1923, we ate zero sugar. We ate zero. To 2023, our sugar intake has increased to 70%. 70% of our diet is sugar now. So no wonder, and that's what he's saying is, Mr. Cullen, he says, no wonder we've got an epidemic of type 2 diabetes. No wonder that these autoimmune issues are shooting through the roof. Autism is shooting through the roof. We're feeding our kids so much sugar, and ourselves as well. Obesity, he said, there was no such thing as obesity. It's very rare to see obese kids in 1923. Now it's 30% of the population. 30%. So 1 in 3 kids, almost 1 in 3 kids, are obese. That's crazy.
Wow.
There's a couple of things I want to say on this. You're trotting in my territory here, so beware, because
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
You're gonna initiate like the longest rant ever.
Yeah.
I love it. But one thing there's a couple things I want to say here. So first, it's interesting. One of my deep dives in research, I found this one photo, and it's a photo of this. The kid must be, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years old. Roly-poly kind of kid. You can just totally tell. He's way, way, way too much overweight for his age. And in the photo, it shows him surrounded by McDonald's. So McDonald's French fries and food and all that other stuff. And in the ebook that I wrote, The Real Truth Behind the Obesity Epidemic, I make the point of, why is that okay? Why is it okay? And why do, forgive me if I step on any toes, parents. I'm not trying to step on your toes. I'm making a point. But why is eating that kind of food okay for a child? And why is it lightly looked on and just kind of shoved aside because, my kids, they don't really like a lot of health foods. This is the only thing I can get my kid to eat that makes him happy. And we constantly make all these excuses for it because it's difficult for us. Well, you know what? It's interesting. And also the industry isn't helping any, because if you look at most kids' menus, the question that I have to ask is, why is it that most kids' menus have mostly fried items on there? Why isn't there healthy choices on those menus? Like real, wholesome, good, healthy choices. Why? It's just it's just a question that you have to ask. And the other thing I'm going to share here around sugar. So this is actually a quote from a book. Jordan S. Rubin in his book, The Maker's Diet. Now, he's got a great book. I don't really follow his diet because I don't believe in diets, but I use his book as a resource because he's got a lot of really good things to share. So I just had to preface that. But here's the quote from his book. Nearly 200 years ago, the average American consumed about 10 pounds of sugar per year. Today, we gladly push aside healthier fare to gather fully 1/4 of our annual calorie intake from sugar, which is about 170 pounds of sugar each year for each of us. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this illustration. How would you like to see a grocery stock worker drop a heavy pallet of 170 1-pound bags of sugar beside your bed? Would you be willing to sit down and eat a bowl full of sugar every fourth meal and nothing else? As bizarre as that sounds, according to the statistics, most of us are doing just that.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I think there was a show about 15 years ago. They used to do that. They used to before they started losing weight, they'd show them how much they were eating per week, and they put it out on a bench, and it was just ridiculous amounts of food that they were eating per week. And then they would put like it in a cylinder how much fat they were eating per day and how much sugar they were eating per day, and it was it was like big jars full of pounds of sugar per day. I'll never forget that. It was like,
Wow.
oh wow.
Yeah, I
It's-
must
So yeah, I
say,
get it.
I eat fairly healthy most of the time, but I do have a weakness, and that is dark chocolate and ice cream. And last night I had the most delicious ice cream, and I'm sure it was full of sugar. Is there anything slightly good about dark chocolate or ice cream, Ken?
You know what? It depends. So here's the thing. So you've got to, number one, let me preface this here. There is no essential sugar. We don't need it. If you're asking the question, how much sugar can I have? Or how much sugar should I be consuming? Rather, that's the better question. That's what I meant to say. How much sugar
Yes,
should I be consuming? The
yes.
answer is 0. You don't
Zero.
need it. You don't need
What
it.
about
However, how I will preface this is because it's darn near almost unsustainable to get completely away from sugar. So a little bit, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, shoot, I consume sugar in my barbecue sauce that I have, and I am a sauce fiend. I love my sauces. Is there sugar in those sauces? Yes. What type of sugar? Now, see, that's what I have a choice of, is what type of sugar. High fructose corn syrup is very, very, very extremely rare for me to consume because I just know that that's just a heavily processed. You know, but no, so ice cream, I think every once in a while, sure, let your hair down, indulge, go for it. The point is we are getting too much sugar on a regular basis, and it's constantly regular basis. What here's just something interesting to think about. The whole concept of breakfast. Where did it come from? Of eating that most important meal of the day within the first whatever time frame of you waking up. Oh, it starts your metabolism. Get your day started right. Start your metabolism and get your energy going. Where did that whole thing come from? Is there scientific basis behind that? Is it scientific at all? The answer is no. Who created the concept? of breakfast being the most important meal per day. I've got news for you. It was the cereal companies trying to sell more of their sugar-filled cereals, and even some of them that were touted as healthy, but really are not. They're chocked full of GMO synthetic ingredients that really do nothing. That's where the whole concept of breakfast actually came from. The only good thing that ever came out of breakfast is, yes, I will admit, there are some excellent, wonderful breakfast foods out there. And the concept of breakfast foods, so now I'm kind of switching gears here a little bit there. I mean, I love breakfast for dinner, if you will. So I mean, the foods that are surrounded by that. But the concept of being so consumed with eating that first meal as soon as you can, no, there is no scientific basis for that. So there's that. And then here's the last thing that I will share around that. And yes, dark chocolate is a better fare of choices, Aldwyn, to answer your question. But here's something else I'm going to share really quick. And then I'm going to shut up, because otherwise I can take up way too much time. And this is your yeah, Scott, this is your episode, and I don't want to take up too much time. But so one last quote here. So before I get into this quote, I'm going to mention a dollar amount here, $50,000. And this was prefaced back in the 1960s. Now, back in the 1960s, please keep this in your mind. Back in the 1960s, $50,000 was a buttload of money. Okay, that was a significant amount of money. Today, it may not sound like that much, but back in the 1960s, that was a lot of money. Here's the quote. The sugar industry paid scientists in the 1960s to play down the link between sugar and heart disease and promoted what instead? Saturated fats as the culprit instead. Now I'm going to skip ahead here. The documents show that the trade group called the Sugar Research Foundation, known today as the Sugar Association, paid 3 Harvard scientists the equivalent of about $50,000 to publish a 1967 review of research on sugar, fat, and heart disease. The studies used in the review were handpicked by the Sugar Group, and the article was published by the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine, minimized the link between sugar and heart health, and basically pointed the finger at the role of saturated fat. This is what they've done to us. So, and this is why a lot of these Harvard studies that come out and different things like that, I don't trust them anymore, because these people like this, they pay these people to come out with cherry-picked, skewed studies that only support the agenda that these big food companies have. And instead, what happened? What was touted as healthy and what our ancient ancestors lived on for thousands of years, you've got saturated fats, you've even got the animal proteins, you've got all that. What they lived on for thousands and thousands of years was now being pointed, the finger is now being pointed at as one of the major causes of coronary heart disease. If you actually do the research and you look through the 1950s all the way to current day, at the point to where they started doing this, obesity went on skyrocket. Diabetes went on skyrocket. Coronary heart disease skyrocketed. They were supposed to be making us so-called healthier, and they made us sicker by things like this, paying Harvard scientists to come out with false information. All right, that's enough about that. I'm going to shut up now.
Yes, love that, Ken. What do you think about that, Scott?
That's what I said earlier. Make us sick and feed us, poison. Basically, make us sick first, and then give us poison to try and rectify the sickness. So, that's hallelujah, brother. Hallelujah. That Hansel Keys. I did my research too. Yeah,
Hansel Keys. Yes. I know all about him. Oh my gosh, the guy's a piece of work.
7 country study. Yeah, I know all about it.
Wow. And I'm just looking at one online here. This is interesting. In a large review of 73 meta-analysis, which included 8,601 studies, high consumption of added sugar was associated with significantly higher risks of 45 negative health outcomes, including diabetes, gout, obesity, high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, cancer, asthma, tooth decay, depression, and early death. Now, my question is, what about fruit? What about fructose? Is that okay?
Fruits, yes. Actually, the more and more I'm doing more research and the more credible people that I'm actually following who are putting out good stuff, the more I'm finding that even what we've been told about so-called greens isn't all it's cracked up to be either. Fruits, I really am relatching on the fact that fruits do have a place in our lives because it's more of a natural sugar. There's some good stuff in there. Now, obviously, I'm not saying go out and just make your eating routine all about fruits. Now, that's a little much. Again, it's about sustainability and balance. But I'm actually going to, with the recent knowledge that I have gained, I am actually going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say, look, even that broccoli you think is great, that Brussels sprout you think is great, the spinach that you think is great, it's not all it's cracked up to be. There is something out there called, now I don't know all the technical terms behind all this, so you're getting layman's language now. But there's something called, there's a defense mechanism that these vegetables and greens are producing. It actually ended up happening through some evolution over time, but these greens and vegetables have actually developed defense chemicals that when they go into our body wreak havoc on our gut. A really good example of that is the oxalates that's found in spinach. Now, raw spinach is not good for you as much as we always believe that it is. It is not. It's very damaging to the gut. However, I was actually just watching a video earlier today on what happens to spinach when you boil it for over a minute. If you boil it for a minute or just a little longer, it actually brings out all the good stuff that spinach does have, like the magnesium, the iron, the vitamins and stuff like that. Then it is good for you. And apparently it lowers those oxalates. Cooked spinach, like for example, you want to make it like a cream spinach or something like that. That too is better for you. Now, I don't know much about cooked broccoli or anything, but, you know, and for a time I was actually willing to start adapting Brussels sprouts back into my life because I just really never really cared for the taste of Brussels sprouts. But now after learning that those aren't all that they're cracked up to be, I'm just like going, nope. You know, so again, it kind of goes back to the basic foundations of what I teach. You need to put a high priority on proteins, very high priority, low priority on carbs. And the vegetables, you don't really need a bunch of them. The fruits and stuff like that, sure, absolutely. I think there is a place for those in the everyday, you know, eating routine. What are your thoughts on that, Scott?
It depends. So the problem is, I don't know about you guys, but when I was young, we used to eat mulberries all the time. There'd always be a mulberry tree, you know, in our suburb. And Mum used to say to us, "Don't wear a white shirt, and don't eat too much." We'd come back, we'd have juice all over our faces, and but my point is the taste of the mulberry back then, straight off the tree, was just magnificent. You could really taste, you could smell them. Like you get up close, you could actually smell the mulberries. But now, if you go to a shopping center, doesn't matter what the berry is. Even cherries, like every now and then I'll get a cherry that I think, okay, doesn't smell too bad. You can actually smell it and you taste it. Oh, okay. But most of the berries that I found in the shopping centers, in the grocery stores, just really like quality. I don't know whether they're just storing them too long, or there's something that's happening to the fruit while they have custody of them. I don't know. I don't know what's happening there, but they just don't taste the same as what they did when I was a kid. That's my point of view. So it's
Yeah.
really hard. Like, if you can find good quality fruit and veg that you can smell and you can actually taste, then yeah, go for it. But if it's stuff that if it doesn't have a smell to it, it doesn't have taste to it, why eat it? It's like giving a rose to Aldwyn, and she smells the rose and you go, oh, this is a bit friggin' ordinary. It looks great. It smells like crap. But if you get a good quality rose, Aldwyn's going to go, that was very thoughtful of that person to do this. It's the same thing for your stomach. Your stomach's going to go, I love you so much. You gave me something that actually tasted nice, and also I can process this better. It's the same analogy.
Yeah, I love that. And this is where supporting farmers, organic farmers, is really good. However, we have chemtrails, right? We have chemtrails. So, generally anything you buy in a supermarket, it's generally been stored for a long time. Often a lot of fruit and vegetables being gassed. It's got all sorts of pesticides and rubbish on it. And you can tell by the smell. When I was in Sydney growing up in North Balgowlah, we had a mulberry tree in the backyard. And I used to love going to the mulberry tree. And we've actually got Nicola Flutterby 23 on Instagram saying, feed the silkworms and eat the mulberries. And we used to have silkworms as well as a child. I remember that very clearly. And
yes.
Support the farmers. Go to the farmers markets more so than the supermarkets, and get self-sufficient. Grow your own. Learn to do gardening, compost, things like that. Get your own veggies going. Yesterday I went into my garden. I picked some parsley from the garden and some spring onion, and I had it fresh and had it with my food. And there's nothing better than picking food fresh from where you are. And even if you have a small apartment, you can still grow things on your balcony. You can, or on your windowsill. There's lots of, in fact, there's a lot of herbs that actually grow just in water, amazingly. So, do a bit of research on that as well. Nicola here on Instagram is asking about good quality protein. What's some good quality protein that either of you would recommend?
So I'll go ahead and take that. So good quality. Thank you for the question, by the way. Really, thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Good quality protein. So I myself, I am definitely like very heavy on animal proteins. And that's what I mean by good quality proteins, animal proteins. But if you're not into animal proteins, fine. Just, find the highest concentration of protein. So let me put it another way. It's about quality, not quantity. And if you're getting quality in, like if you like the lentils or whatever it is, find whatever it is in your eating routine that has the highest quality of protein, the highest amount of protein as well. So that is where quantity comes in. But I think where I'm making a distinction with quantity is it when you're getting in good quality protein, it's no longer necessarily about how much, the quantity, because your stomach will tell you that you're full, and that will happen faster, and you will stay full longer. And so, but basically when I say quality is, I really, through my research, I really have found that the animal proteins have the most nutrition in them, readily and available. And on top of that, the animal proteins are actually way more easier absorbed by your body than plant proteins. That is not me trying to step on any vegetarians or vegan toes. That is fact. Plain and simple. So let's take, for example, red meat. Here's just an example on what this looks like. So red meat has something called heme protein, or not heme protein, heme iron. Heme iron is a type of iron that cannot be found in plant proteins. Heme iron is a type of iron that is very, very absorbable by your body. What's interesting enough, though, and this kind of shows the important role of heme iron. Heme iron, when it's present in foods you're eating, will help you absorb the inferior iron that is in plant proteins. So it's just interesting that the overall arching heme iron plays a pivotal role in absorption, which is just interesting. So, and the other thing about, let's say, animal proteins, especially red meat, that is the only place that you are going to find all 9 of the amino acids readily available for your body. You cannot, it's very hard to do that when it comes to plant proteins. Very, very hard. And we all know that how important the amino acids are. Those 9 amino acids are the building blocks for muscle and for building strength into your body. So when you're not getting all 9 of them, you're missing some of those parts. So anyhow, Scott, what would you say about that?
Actually, I want to add to you were saying about spinach before.
Yeah.
Actually, from my experience, from watching, from clinical experience, it actually causes kidney stones too. So don't eat too much of it. So the other thing is with the proteins, yeah. So the vegetarians, they normally eat eggs, and actually the research has proven that eggs is a better protein. They actually had, I think there's 17 aminos in normal, 16, I can't remember now, in normal meat, whereas in eggs they have 17. So they have this extra amino acid chain that is not produced in other animal fats, animal proteins, I should say. So it's eggs are actually better for you if you don't want to eat the meats. Basically, if you can eat an egg every few days, you'll get heaps of protein from that.
You are actually 110% correct. And so that was actually a very surprising discovery for me when I was doing some research. I'm sure you can tell by now, I love my red meat and stuff like that. And I've always believed red meat was like up here, But in my research, I found out eggs are way up here. Eggs are actually a superfood, you guys. Plain and simple. They are a superfood. I did an entire podcast episode on, eggs and the benefits of eggs and everything else. They are just such a superfood. And so, yes, so I agree with what Scott's saying here. Like, if you're not a meat person, if you can at least get eggs down and get pasture raised as well, get pasture raised eggs, because those are going to have the higher nutritional value. If you're just getting the plain grocery store ones because they're cheap, you're ripping yourself off. It's just better to get the pasture raised eggs from chickens that have, been free to roam and eat their natural feed than anything else. And one other thing I'll say around eggs too is the yolks. Some of these companies are feeding these chickens a certain feed that makes the yolks a dark color so that they can raise the price on their eggs.
Yes.
The yolks, it doesn't make, really, as far as what I'm learning, it doesn't make any difference what color the yolk is. Just find out which ones are the pasture raised ones and that have all the stamps of approval, raised humanely and different things like that. Those are going to be your higher nutrition. But Scott is absolutely 100% correct. Eggs are at the top of the list of protein, nutrition, all of it.
Yeah.
I want to add something.
Sorry.
Scott, you go.
So another thing I want to add. So, sorry, vegans, I'm going to give you some bad news. So, legumes and nuts are normally viewed that they produce enough proteins in our diet. Well, actually, in a laboratory setting, that is correct. That is very correct. But how the body reacts when you eat those foods will not actually break it down as a protein. It actually breaks it down as a glucose. So there's only two things that the liver and pancreas and gallbladder break our food down into, and that's glycogen and glucose. There's only two. So proteins, animal proteins, break down as glycogen. I hope I can say that properly. Pretty much everything else breaks down as glucose. So all your legumes and all your nuts and all that sort of thing will break down as glucose. Now, how do we know that? Well, my mentor in Seattle, he's from Seattle in the United States. He sees 550 patients a week. So he has a huge database, massive. So he blood tested all these patients with these different types of foods, and he found that those legumes and those nuts caused an insulin spike. So what does that mean? It means that the body is treating that food as sugar, as glucose.
Fascinating.
Sorry to say.
Fascinating. Whereas I've met vegans who've had blood tests and they say they're incredibly healthy. In fact, healthier than a lot of meat eaters. So I think this is a very individual thing as well. Like I know myself, and we've got, Nicola here on Instagram saying that her digestive system finds animal protein longer and harder to digest than plant protein. And I would agree. I am like that myself. I don't know if this has anything to do with the A blood type that I'm. If you look at the blood type diet, and we've talked a bit about this on previous shows, but for me personally, I like more vegetarian foods. I would say I'm probably 98% vegetarian personally, and different types of protein that animal protection groups such as World Animal Protection are saying is fairly good is things like pumpkin seeds, peanuts, almonds, pistachios, cashews, black chia seeds, tahini, things like that. And I love those kind of foods. And I must say, I probably eat more as more of a vegetarian. I eat more food because I'd say you probably do get more satiated if you're eating meats. But I do find definitely for myself, if I eat a lot of red meat, I find it's very heavy. I get lethargic. I feel tired. I really don't like too much meat at all. And the other thing on eggs, now, when I heard about what happened with cage eggs, how cruel that is for the chickens. Do you know with cage eggs, they have 4 chickens on one little A4 space, like as big as this is, 4 chickens on a slope, and they only live a few months, and it's incredibly cruel. They end up with all sorts of cuts, and they peck at each other and all sorts of things. It's a very, very, very cruel practice. So if you are going to buy eggs, buy free-range eggs, we call it here in Australia. Free ranges, if you can buy it from the farm where you can see that the chickens are roaming freely, that is absolutely the better way to go than these cage egg situations, which are totally cruel for animals. It's worth paying double the price to get some decent eggs if you are going to eat eggs. And I'm sure there'll be many opinions on this out there. We're just giving our opinions, right? And now Ken loves his meat and I love my vegetables and my fruits, right? And my dark chocolate and ice cream occasionally. I do love those things. And I have been intermittent fasting lately, where I've been eating after 12 p.m. and before 8 p.m. most days. Some days I will break it a little bit. And I notice that when I do break it, if I have heavy food late at night, I feel lethargic. I feel tired in the morning. So let's talk a little bit about intermittent fasting and the health benefits of that and how that can help you get busy living. Now, Scott, I'd love to go to you on this one. What do you think of intermittent fasting?
Yeah, so we talk about this in the health club as well. So so that actually with the vegetarians and vegans, if they want to lose weight, I actually use this method because you might have heard of the 16-8. So what does that mean? So 16 hours, you're fasting for, and for 8 hours you're eating. Now, the best times I found was to eat between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. So there's your 8 hours. Why? Because not many people want to have breakfast with you. They normally want to have lunch or dinner with you, normally. So it's easier to manage if you can. It's easier to manage if you can last until 11 a.m. And basically, there's a 4-hour window. So between 12 hours. So if you fast for 16 hours, between that 12-hour period and that 16-hour period, the liver will actually speed up metabolism and you'll start to burn fat in that last 4 hours. But the problem is you've got to wait 12 hours. Go figure. So Yeah, so that 12 between that 12-hour period and that 16-hour period, they found that our metabolism speeds up at its optimum, and that's when you start to cannibalize. Cannibalize, yeah. So cannibalism internally is basically the liver burning fat from our stores. So that's what we want. We want the store of fat being burnt. Because that first 12 hours, what will happen is the liver will burn the fat that's in our blood, the sugar in our blood. And then after that 12-hour period, that's when it will start to burn the stores. So that's what we want. We want that 4-hour window where we but yeah, other people do it longer. So there's people that do it for 24 hours. Some people do it for 48 hours. Certain religions do it. They do it for 72 hours. So and then of course Jesus, he always has to go that one step further and did it for 40 days.
Yeah, geez, right? Oh
What
my
a
goodness.
nutcase. Just drink water for 40 days. Good on him.
I myself, for intermittent fasting, I typically do. I've been intermittent fasting for about 5 years now. I actually discovered, interesting story around that. I actually discovered intermittent fasting after my weight loss journey. I didn't even use it during the journey. And when I discovered the concept of it, I actually stayed away from it for the longest time. And the reason, because I was thinking, oh, geez, I go to the gym and fasted state, I'm going to pass out, especially with my extreme cardio routine. I'll be passing out. And so there was always like this fear around it until I finally did a little experiment. I experimented with it a couple times here in my home. I created like a crazy cardio course and just went all wild with it and did that in a fasted state and to see what the results were. I was actually really surprised at the outcome of it. It wasn't at all what I thought it would be. I actually had more energy. My energy was cleaner. I had more stamina. All of that was I've frozen, so I don't know if I'm still even coming through. Are you guys there?
Yes, your sound's coming through,
Yeah.
but your face is frozen.
Yeah.
My face is frozen. Great. But you can still hear me. Aldwyn, would you do me a favor? Oh wait, I think it's my computer. It's thinking right now. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, so then I'm just going to keep going and see if this clears up here. Maybe it will. Because everything's frozen on my end. But
you've got the deep thinker, Worden thinker thinking at the moment. That's what we paused on.
So it's just the results that I had from it were completely opposite of what I thought I'd get. And so after a few other times of experimenting with that, I bought into intermittent fasting, hook, line, and sinker. And then the more research I did on it, the more further I fell in love with intermittent fasting. I love it. And there's so many benefits behind intermittent fasting. I can't even access my web browser. It won't even open up stuff for me. I was going to read from my notes some of the benefits of intermittent fasting, but I cannot access them right now. This is very strange. What I'm going to do to see if I can reset this, Aldwyn, I'm going to pop off real quick and I'm going to pop back on to just put me back on the screen.
Okay, no problem. All right.
Thank you.
And benefits of intermittent fasting. Now, there's lots of benefits. It can benefit your heart health, reduce inflammation, can help repair your cells. It can help burn fat. That's just a few benefits. What are some other benefits, Scott?
Well, it gives your stomach and your liver a bit of time to relax. You're putting all this fuel into me, and all of a sudden, it's like a holiday. I got 16 hours of relaxing. So, as I said, it slows down metabolism initially. Well, not slows it down, but it moderates, and then that last 4 hours it'll start to speed up a bit. But if you're consistently putting fuel in, then the liver's got to consistently work harder. and this is the same with type 2 diabetics. Their liver's got to constantly process sugar all the time. So that's why you can hear of where some people they go from a type 2 diabetic to a type 1 diabetic, because what has happened is that the pancreas and the liver have just gone, stuff you you're slamming sugar into me all day every day, and now you want me to try and consistently process this for like 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and I'm just going to say to you, nip, I'm not doing it anymore, and we're going to stop processing sugar. So then they have to become reliant on insulin externally. So then they got to inject it, which is that's a horrible lifestyle. It's manageable. It is manageable. You can do it. I do know someone who doesn't take any medication at all, and he is a type 1 diabetic, but he is regimental with his diet. Regimental, like mental. he is very strict with his diet. He basically minimizes sugar intake completely. So yeah, but it can be done, but most people they just can't do that. So they have to take medication. So that's the transition from type 2 to type 1, is that basically your liver and pancreas just can't do it anymore.
Well, and I've read studies how I've read through quite a few articles that actually show that intermittent fasting can put diabetics into remission.
Yeah, that was my point earlier, is that you're actually giving your liver and kidneys and your digestive tract a bit of time just to relax, because they're constantly trying to process foods. Then, like you were saying before about breakfast, like you don't really need it. Yeah, I do agree with you.
What is breakfast really? What was it really? Are you ready for this, you guys?
Mr. Kellogg's. I think Mr. Kellogg's. He's the culprit.
Yeah. So, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Let's see how many people in the audience remember this. What breakfast really is. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Break fast. Anybody remember that? How did it get changed from break fast to some word that we just meshed together? Breakfast. Yes. And all of a sudden it's all about all this food and everything else, which I said earlier. Yes, there's some great breakfast foods. Absolutely. I love bacon, and all that stuff. Love it all. But it's breaking the fast. And there is no most important meal of the day. You break your fast when you break your fast. And yes, Scott, I definitely 100% agree with you. Our bodies were not designed to be eating 4, 5, 6, 7 meals per day. Our bodies need a break. Where did that whole concept? I don't even know where that concept came from. 4, 5, 6, 7 meals per day. No. Our ancient ancestors didn't do that. They were lucky if they got 1 meal a day. If they got their catch, they had a meal. Hey, I'll give you this much. Maybe they had a second meal or a third meal as they were munching on some berries here and there. All right, I'll give you that much. But they were not consumed with 4, 5, 6, 7 meals per day. It's a bunch of bunk. They didn't have, back in the day, they didn't have Uber Eats. They didn't have people delivering groceries to your door. They didn't have freezers. They didn't have refrigerators. They didn't have any of this stuff. And look at their body types. They were strong. They didn't have health issues. They were strong enough to drag that prey that they got on their back all the way back to camp. They were strong enough to build their own houses. They were healthy enough to do that. They were lean, muscular. I mean, not like bodybuilder style, but look at their structure.
I was going to say that's where it came from. Bodybuilders were the ones that were eating consistently, doing these small meals all day, every day.
What's interesting? One of the very first clients that came through my program, she actually used to be a bodybuilder. And I asked her, I was like, did you buy into that whole multiple meals per day? Surprisingly, she said no. She's like, she did bodybuilding, and she showed me some of her photos from the past. And I was like, damn, okay. And you did that while intermittent fasting? And she's like, yep. I'm like, damn. Okay. So it can be done.
Yeah.
Just the whole bodybuilding thing, and you have to eat all those multiple meals. No, if you do it correctly, you can do that in your window of eating time.
Yep.
Blah.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with you. That and that's what I say to my patients about herbs. Herbs is another good example of how information has been lost through the generations. What do I mean by that? Well, in your pantry, you'll probably have ginger. You'll probably have cardamom, fennel, licorice root, or licorice anyway, and what's it called?
Turmeric, cinnamon,
Oh, yeah, cinnamon.
garlic.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, cinnamon. So those herbs that I mentioned in Chinese medicine are really good for the stomach. They're fantastic for the stomach. So our great grandparents would have known that. Why? Because they had to grow it themselves. So if they had a stomach issue, which wouldn't have been often, I suspect, because they didn't have McDonald's on the corner or KFC, and yeah, that they would have known that because they had to grow it themselves. The problem is that information hasn't come down to us. I had to pay a lot of money to go and find that out. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that a lot of information that would have been used 100 years ago has basically been lost. It's too easy now. You can go down to the shop and you can get all these herbs. We have no idea what they're for. And if you ask the shopkeeper, they have no idea. How do I know? Because I went and asked them.
lost, or a lot of it hidden. Because I think that has a lot to do with it as well. A lot of this has been hidden. And there's people like, I don't know if you've heard of her. I love most of her stuff. I don't really like the fact that she's vegan, but that's another story. But I love her stuff. She's got some very, very powerful content that she puts out. Barbara O'Neill. And she has been under attack because of the truths around nutrition that she is putting out. Yeah. They've tried to shut her down. They've tried to censor her. They've shut her websites down. She's still doing her stuff. But my gosh. So I have to ask the question, is it really that it hasn't been passed down, or is it that the ready availableness of that information has been hidden from us?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. The bastardization of our food is been by design. It is all by design. Like I said before, let's make him sick first by making him eat crap, and then we give him the answer, which is poison. It's a great business model, guys. You can't beat it.
Oh yeah, big pharma.
You can't beat it. And if it gets really serious, we'll put something artificial inside your body, and hopefully it works for let's say 10, 20 years.
For those of you who are in the United States, I got something else. Another little bombshell for you. American Heart Association. No. That is literally a front company for these big food and tech out there. Let me tell you something. 80%. And all you have to do is go to their website and look at where their funding comes from. It is right there. It's listed right in front of your eyes. 80% of the American Heart Association is funded by what? Pharmaceutical companies. What does that tell you? The other thing, too, around that is, let's, for a brief moment, get on the subject of cholesterol. Our bodies produce over 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol per day. Over 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol our body produces naturally on its own per day. Yet, the American Heart Association wants to tell you that just consuming an extra 300 milligrams is going to put you at a higher risk of coronary heart disease. If you are thinking with any logical mind, that does not make sense. Just another point. The American Heart Association, do not listen to them. They are not there for the interest of the public people. They are there for the interest of their highest payers.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Common sense, not very common. Common sense, not very common. Back to you, Scott.
to add to that, from what I've viewed myself, this is from clinical experience. People are taking the anti-cholesterol medication, statins, Crestor, Lipitor is a common name. Vasostatin is another. There's many different brands now. The problem with that is people were taking that medication to lower their cholesterol to stop heart disease, cardiovascular disease.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is people, that's it. The problem is people are taking these medications, but they're still having heart attacks, they're still having strokes, and they're still dying from those cardiovascular events. So it doesn't make sense. We're taking so they're dying with low cholesterol. They're having heart attacks and strokes with low cholesterol. It blows my mind. The doctors must be questioning this. They must be saying, "Oh yeah, that's what they'll take my cholesterol. They still have a heart attack."
How interesting.
And and the other thing too is I'll add on to that, Scott. Oh my gosh, like I'm loving this. I'll add on to that, Scott. I love it. So I'm gonna quote from another quote here. So here's something else that might blow some of our audience's mind here. And Scott, you're gonna love this. You're gonna latch right onto this. There's no such thing as good and bad cholesterol. Yes, you heard me right. There is no such thing as good and bad cholesterol. I'm reading from this quote. These are names that were created in order to confuse patients and scare them into taking dangerous cholesterol-lowering drugs. Consider that next to water, there is nothing more important to your body than cholesterol. HDL, high-density lipoprotein. What is that? High-density lipoprotein, not cholesterol. High-density lipoprotein, the so-called good cholesterol. LDL, low-density lipoprotein. What? It's not cholesterol either? Nope. Low-density lipoprotein. The so-called bad cholesterol are not even cholesterol. They are lipoproteins, cholesterol transports. Latch your brain onto this one. LDL transports cholesterol from your liver to various places of your body where cholesterol is needed, such as your cells. HDL transports cholesterol back to the liver to be reused. Your body is dependent on LDL cholesterol for hormone production. Without LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol, your body is literally incapable of making the steroid hormones your body needs.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's exactly right. Cholesterol is the glue. It holds everything together. So you need it. You can't go without.
Where cholesterol becomes bad has nothing really to do with HDL and LDL. HDL and LDL are equals. One or the other could be bad. Here's how that happens, though. The oxidation of your cholesterol cells. Now, HDL and LDL, they're transport. So picture a little guy on a bike. A little guy on the bike and says Uber cholesterol transport. All right. And he's transporting this little cholesterol particle to a part of your body that needs it or back to the liver. Well, what happens if you're consuming a bunch of seed oils and processed foods? Then what happens is this oxidation starts attacking that cell and starts attacking the guy on the bike too. Till eventually the guy on the bike stalls. The cholesterol, basically, for lack of better words, this is just illustration here. Cholesterol particle basically kind of catches fire, if you will, and they both completely stall out. And then what happens? It sticks to your artery walls. This is what's called plaque. That's how it happens, not the way they've made you think it happens.
Yes, fascinating, my friends. Do your own research on this. There is some brilliant documentaries out there on all sorts of topics. Now, one I will refer to is What the Health. What the Health is a great one about the meat and dairy industry, and many others you will find in the Conscious Community Global Facebook group. There's a whole lot of documentaries, the Thrive documentaries in there. It talks about if you want to know what's going on in the world, follow the money trail. Follow the money trail. Who's profiting from this? We know Big Pharma has shut down a lot of things over time, including a lot of so-called cancer cures. There's a great documentary called Cancer, the Forbidden Cures, and it shows about 14 different treatments of cancer that were shut down by pharmaceutical companies. Now, on that point, a lot of people unfortunately believe that they need these tablets to survive. And my dad is one of them. Unfortunately, my dad has had 4 heart attacks, prostate cancer, diabetes. He's been zapped and been all sorts of, he's an amazing guy. He's survived 85 years. He's 86 on the same day that I'm 50 in 6 days' time, 16th of January. And a lot of people feel that they have to take these tablets to keep themselves alive. Now, Dad's first heart attack was 26 years ago. And I believe the stats are that 70% of people around that amount on the first heart attack, they will die. Now, my father believes that because of modern medicine, that he is now kept alive for another 26 years because of some of these tablets, etc., that he feels that he now has to take. Now, recently he had a pulmonary edema, which means fluid in the lungs. His heart's not pumping as well as it should be. He's now waiting for shock treatment on his heart, and he's now on extra medication that he has had really bad side effects to. He's feeling tired. He has to go to the bathroom every 15 minutes. He can't stand the medication, yet he says to me, this is keeping me alive, Aldwyn. He truly believes this is keeping him alive. And I've shown him things from Tyler Tolman, from Don Tolman. I've shown him some of the whole food medicine, some of the whole food cures. And yes, he's realized now that from the medication he was taking for his diabetes, it then caused prostate cancer. There was actually one medication that Tyler Tolman talked about there, that particular medication, that's one of the side effects. And now there's Nicola Flutterby, I think might be how you say it. Nicola Flutterby 23 on Instagram is saying, what if you have to take, she says, have to take. Now, I don't believe you have to do anything. However, if you believe your doctors, your traditional GPs, and sure, they're good for some things, like if you break your arm or something, I think traditional medicine's great for that kind of thing. If you have to take meds in the morning with food, what would you suggest as far as back to the topic of breakfast or breakfast? So some of these pharmaceutical companies or doctors will say you have to have this in the morning with your breakfast. What do you say to those people? Let's go to you, Scott.
Get another doctor.
Thank you. Yes. And I'll say something to that. I just recently landed my mom a holistic doctor. Let me tell you, night and day. Because my mom's got a bone deterioration disease. It's arthritic. And so her life is around doctors and different things like that. Well, over the last couple of years, we just got tired of her doctor always going to the meds as a solution to my mom. Like my mom gets nervous when she went to go see this doctor. She would get high blood pressure in that moment. And then her primary doctor wouldn't approve her surgery or threaten not to approve her surgery coming up because of her high blood pressure. Eventually, I got away from all that. We got a holistic doctor. We found one that's very, very well-rounded. And the things that are coming out of this doctor's mouth, I've never heard out of any other doctor about. What other doctor do you know is going to talk about the importance of grounding? What other doctor that you know is going to talk about the importance of, in the evening time, taking a shot of salt water, using Celtic salt so that my mom doesn't pee so much at night? You don't hear that out of normal doctors. It's a world of difference. So Scott, I agree with you. Find a holistic doctor that's going to give you real advice and not just shove another pill down your throat.
Well, you got to negotiate with them. I found that you have to negotiate. Once you're taking a medication, I always say you're on the treadmill now. You're on the conveyor belt, because now they're going to give you one medication for something, and then that's it. Once you're on one every day. And another question I want to ask the audience is, are you healthy if you take medication every day? Now, so I'll just go back to that. If once you're on one medication, that's it. Because the fillers that they put with that medication are eventually going to erode the stomach, the liver, and obviously the gallbladder and pancreas. Eventually, it's going to affect those. Doesn't matter what sort of medication it is, because it's the fillers that they add with the medication. All fillers damage the digestive system. Now, once you've got digestive issues, then you're going to probably have to take heartburn medication. And of course, heartburn medication causes other side effects. So you see what I'm saying? Now then it turns into something else, and you're going to have to take something else. And then once you're on the hypertensive meds, yeah, it's not good. That means the cardiovascular system is compromised, and that's the most important. So you just got to try and negotiate. Once you're on the treadmill, once you're on the conveyor belt, you just need to negotiate the best you can to try and get off the meds. Because as I said, it's a dominoes effect. It'll eventually run into something else that you're going to have to take, and then bum.
Yeah.
So
Now,
just try your best to negotiate.
Yeah, and obviously, just a disclaimer here, guys: we're not doctors, but we have certainly done a lot of research, and we have certainly, put in hours and hours of time of doing the research and finding the people that are telling the real truth. Again, go do the research for yourself, and don't just do a Google search. That doesn't work either, because that search is going to pull up biased. And Google is extremely biased. Oh my gosh. So we're just trying to give you solutions that are going to address the real problem and not put a Band-Aid on it. And that I know that's what I'm passionate about. I know that's what Scott's passionate about. Aldwyn, you're passionate about that as well as the truth, and encouraging, as we are on the show, encouraging people to get out there and start learning to do the research again and ask the hard questions again. We've gotten complacent. I'm just as guilty of that, but we've gotten complacent. We just accept what's being told to us as the truth. Isn't it time to question that and ask the hard questions again? So we're just trying to give you some suggestions, solutions, and places to look. So anyhow.
Yes. And when Ken says we're not doctors, he means Ken and I. We obviously have Dr. Scott Fox here with us. So
yes, okay.
That's Ken. Now, you're a doctor of what? Because there's different types of doctors, right?
Chinese medicine. So Chinese medicine. Someone registered acupuncturist and Chinese herbalist. So
Got it.
Correction, but we do have a doctor. But Aldwyn and I are not doctors.
We're not doctors, no. So
that's why I was waving. I was like, "Hello, I'm over here."
I'm sorry, Scott.
I saw you, Scott. I saw you. It's all good.
So,
Ken, we know what you mean. Yeah, exactly. This is not health advice necessarily, right? And you'll have to, seek your own professional, such as Dr. Scott Fox, to get, the best advice for your situation, obviously. However, we're just planting seeds here that hopefully are encouraging you to go and do some more of your own research. Yes, Scott.
Yeah, no, that's look. You were talking about before. You said before that what would be a saying that you go by. Well, this is my saying: nature provides everything, guys. If you have a problem, nature has provided an answer for it. The problem is you need to have the effort and the want and the will to go and find it. Nature will provide it. You just need to go and find it, guys.
Yeah, I love that, Scott. We've got Nicola here. She says some meds help in the moment, like balance to mental health every 12 hours. And she's asking about bipolar and Chinese medicine. Is Chinese medicine good for bipolar as well, Scott?
So, in Chinese medicine, it actually is an issue with the heart itself. It actually, usually it's a valve issue in the heart. So that causes the up and down, the feelings of up and down. I've helped patients with bipolar disorder before with herbs, especially by basically increasing blood flow into the heart itself and breaking up that calcification in the valve in the heart. And I know the cardiologists out there are going to say, how do you do that? Well, research it, guys, because there's heaps of research on it. There's heaps.
Yeah, do some more research. And great to see so many people joining us on Instagram, particularly. I can see you all popping up here. There's lots of people here. We've got Christchurch photographer Leah Partrop. We've got, of course, Nicola Flutterby's been asking lots of questions. Thank you for your participation there. I am Muhammad Ali has joined. Muhammad Ali's in the house. John Lazaru. John Lazaru, good to see you. He's a legend. One of the founders of the Coffee Club. Tinson747. We've got Lee Bruce, Salwa Abdul Manaim. Where are you from, guys? Let us know in the chat. Rajiv Naga. We've got people all over the world. Singleton, Austin. We've got Michael Ridwanala. We've got Chocolate on Purpose. There you go, dark chocolate fans. Here we go, Chocolate on Purpose in the house on Instagram there. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know, where are you joining us from? Love to hear from you. And of course, all those joining on the other social media too. We have Jeff Veal, who joined us earlier. He said he was from Manila. And Barry Upton, I know, is from Thailand on Facebook. Jeff says, you are what you eat. Jeff says sugar and salt is in most foods we eat. Yes, indeed. Definitely read all the ingredients. Jeff says going vegan you won't live longer, but it will sure seem like it. That's an interesting comment. It will seem like you're living longer. Now, I love this, Jeff. I was actually thinking, when you guys were talking about spinach, I was thinking about, what about the whole Popeye story, right? On Popeye the Sailor Man and the health of spinach with that. Now, that's a very interesting point. He is often in olive oil, he says. Spinach, why doesn't Popeye rust? He's often in olive oil. That's hilarious. Great joke there. Thank you. We love to laugh as well. And that's a great way to live longer, is to laugh, have some fun. And I saw a great movie actually last night called Click. Have you seen Click with Adam Sandler? It's a fantastic movie. It was actually out a few years ago, but it reminds you of the fragility of life. Really fantastic. We've got Wesley Curry II from Huntington in WV, wherever WV is. What's WV? Is that West Virginia? Oh, West Virginia. Okay. And he's into the mark of the beast. He says, shall be the Omni. Okay, well, we'll see. I mean, there's certainly some interesting things happening in the world. It shall be branded into your flesh a barcode. Yes, well, let's not go down that topic. I mean, absolutely. We're going, oh my gosh, yes, look into that. It's interesting how we're starting to humanize robots in a lot of Hollywood movies. Watch Out of Shadows. Watch Out of Shadows. Now, I'm all about the truth about the media. Ken's about the truth about health. Scott is also obviously right into health. And we're talking about how to get busy living today. And if you don't have your health, you have nothing. So we have talked a lot about health here. And I do recommend check out some of these comments that are coming through on, I don't have time to go through all those right now, on YouTube there. Okay, we've got Philip Giordani says that he has something to say. Well, please say it in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions, comments. What are some tips of how you get busy living, some tips to make the most of life that you have for us? Let us know in the comments wherever you are joining us right now. Welcome. If you're joining us live, we're about to wrap up the live stream soon. And if you are watching the replay as well, let us know in the comments if you have something to say. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know where you're joining us from. And finally, wrapping up this show, Scott, what are some other tips you have for how to get busy living? We have talked a lot about health. What about some other areas of life as well?
Well, as I said, try and calm that mind, the old monkey chatter. Try and reduce that as much as you can. As I said, you've only got 2 good thoughts every year, okay? Just remember that. Yeah, basically, it's all about time. So the more time you spend on yourself, what do I mean by that? Exercising, eating properly, trying to empty your mind, trying to reduce your anxiety, trying to reduce your stress, make good choices for yourself, basically. That's the most important thing. If there was a message I was going to say, is the main message would be to spend as much time on yourself, because at the end of the day, how can you help others if you don't spend that time on yourself? You're useless you're useless if you're bedridden. Just think about that, guys.
Yeah. And your podcast, Get Busy Livin', how did you come up with that name?
So, thanks for asking. So, out of the movie, Shawshank Redemption. So, the Shawshank Redemption is the day before Andy Dufresne tries to break out of jail. Well, he doesn't try, he does. the day before he goes to see Red Herring, I think his name was Red anyway, the character that was played by Morgan Freeman, and he says to him, well, we've got a choice, haven't we? We either get busy living or we get busy dying. And so, yeah, that's where I got it from. So I thought, I also was walking one morning, and there's a gentleman that I run into every morning, and he said to me, well, I've been going to a physiotherapist and going to, sorry, not physiotherapist, a physical trainer. And the physical trainer said exactly the same thing. He said, once you get to about 60, you either get busy living or you get busy dying. So you got the choice. So I agree with him. Very much agree with him. So that's where it comes from.
I love that.
Why not call it Get Busy Living?
I love that. I love that. And as they say, you're either green and growing or you're ripe and rotting. You're never at a standstill, right? You're one or the other.
And one thing I'll add to that too, Get Busy Living. So I think a big part of that as well is being present in the moment.
Yes.
So not being consumed with always thinking about the past, what you did in the past, mistakes you made in the past, this, the past, that, the past. Or then what we tend to do is we constantly get stuck in the future and living for the next moment. But why not be here now in the present and enjoy that moment? Also, take it a step further. What does it look like to enjoy that moment and look at it in a way of, here's an example. For those of you who might be in business for yourself, what does it look like to get up and approach your day and approach your business, being in the moment, but treating that moment as if it were brand new and you had the opportunity to be creative about anything you wanted in that moment. And you had the opportunity not to do what you've always known to do in that moment, to what you've always been taught to do in that moment. Being present in the moment, you have the opportunity to do something new, to kind of pull from something that I shared in our last episode that we had. Now, I'm going to preface this. I mean this in the sense of creativity and in a life sense. So not to spawn any weird conversations that might come from this, Aldwyn. Hint, hint. Let me read here. 2 questions I'll pose. What can I play with today? What can you play with today? Creativity wise. Okay. Second thing, if you could do anything, what would you do? If you could literally do anything, the sky's the limit, what would you do? Now be careful with this one, because that one might curate some negative thoughts like, oh no, I can't do that. Here's how you get around that. Well, I know I can't do it, but if I could, how would I do it? This is a perfect example on how to be present in the moment and treat each of those moments as brand new and an opportunity to do something different. What an opportunity and what a gift. And it's always at your grasp and right in front of you. So that's how I'll add to this, how to get busy living. I think that's a big, big present.
Yeah, I love that, Ken. And it's something I've been learning a lot more to do. And, I was diagnosed recently with ADHD. And I know Ken's mentioned he has ADHD, which I actually think is super. And a lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD. Now, is acupuncture good for ADHD? Just to sidetrack slightly.
Yeah. Because of that reason, because of what I spoke about before, the second mechanism of action. That's why you feel euphoric afterwards, because all the blood vessels open up and you feel relaxed. You feel like, ugh, and your mind just goes blank. That monkey mind goes. That's what I was saying before. So that the more the monkey mind is thrown out the window, the better you'll feel.
Yes, it's amazing when you look at, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, most people. About 98% of them are the same as we had yesterday, and 80% for most people are negative. Isn't that fascinating? We are incredibly powerful beings as human beings. We're 1 in a billion just by being born. We've beaten a billion swimmers to get to the finish line. You are extraordinary, and there's no coincidences, my friends. You're here for a reason, and I so appreciate those who have joined us live. We have so many amazing comments, and thank you from Nicola there. She says she agrees. Scott, she agrees. Ken, in the moment. And in the moment, I must say, having worked in the media for 40 years experience in the media now, which is insane. Feels like a lifetime. Often in the media, it's go, 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 right? You're running here, running there. And it's very challenging to stay present when you've got so much going on and you've got constant deadlines, as they say, or time frames. Deadlines, actually a very negative word. Time frames is a better one. Notice the language, understand, standing under, notice the language. This is all coming out with common law too. Have a look at some of the language behind what we say. And I catch myself often. Deadlines is what it was called in the media. It was always deadline, go, 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 go. And so for me, being present has been a real practicing being present. And one of the things I love to do is yoga. I meditate. I come back to my breath. Breath work is really powerful. I do things that give me joy. Back to that. Now, yesterday I was swimming in the ocean. I went for a sunset swim. And a lot of people say, oh, don't swim at sunrise and sunset. Oh, there's sharks out there. Well, I love it. It's like a big spa bath. There were just bubbles over the water and on the ocean on the Gold Coast. I was watching the sunset. It was only me in the ocean because the lifeguards had gone home by that stage. It was about 6:30 p.m. or so, and the sun was just setting. It was absolutely beautiful. Now, I made sure that I had my feet on the sand, as some people have been following my social media know I got washed out to sea back in February last year, about a kilometre out to sea in Coffs Harbour. Had a very close near-death experience there, which has made me even more grateful for my life now. However, coming back to the present moment, one thing I do when I get in the ocean is when I go under a wave, I think of something I'm grateful for. So it's a practice that I have developed, that I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my family, grateful to live on the Gulf Coast, grateful for these bubbles. It could be the smallest thing. What are you grateful for? And in fact, I'm asking all of you right now, what are you grateful for today? What's one thing you're grateful for? And just getting into gratitude is a great way you can make the most of life, being present, focusing on your breath. And while I stood on the sand yesterday and I looked out at the beautiful ocean of bubbles and the sun setting, I took some deep breaths. I actually did some conscious breathing. I did 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. And then I looked to the left of the ocean. Then I looked to another part of the ocean. I did 3 breaths in, 3 breaths out. Another part of the ocean, 2 breaths in, 2 breaths out. Another part of the ocean, and 1 breath in, 1 breath out. And then I repeated it, went the other way. It's just a little practice that that's what I felt like doing in the moment. I was inspired to practice breath work. It took about 2 minutes and I felt amazing. Just doing that little bit of breath work, getting into gratitude, doing something I love. These are all ways that you can make the most of your life and get busy living. Any other points on that? And of course, the great book Be Here Now by Eckhart Tolle, that's another one you might like to look at, because often when we're in the past, we worry about the past, we worry about the future, we're not being present. You can't control the past. Many things in the future you can't control. You can really only control what you're doing right now. You can have goals, etc. As they say, make plans. You make plans and God laughs sometimes, right? You make plans and God laughs. I'm sure Wesley would agree with me here. Wesley Curry too, from West Virginia on YouTube. I'm sure you would agree with that. He's put a lot of comments in there about Jesus and whatever your spiritual beliefs are, I respect and love you all. And I do believe that peace starts from within. And we're going to have world peace when we have that peace within, when we have that self-love, when we have that self-kindness. These are all ways that you can make the most of life. And just notice for yourself, are you holding on to any resentment with anyone? Because as they say, resentment is like taking the poison and you wanting someone else dead. You're taking the poison. So where can you let go of resentment? As we've just come into 2024, 10th of January today in Australia, 9th of January in America, where can you let go of resentment? Where can you learn to forgive and let go? Where can you do the ho'oponopono, which I have here somewhere, is that I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Where can you do the ho'oponopono on yourself and on others? Now, we do need to wrap up this show. It's been a fantastic episode. I've totally loved this. Scott, something you want to add?
No, I was just thinking we were supposed to go for like an hour 30. It's like an hour 50. Yeah. We can all talk, obviously.
Welcome to the way it happens on our show sometimes, when we get going. I mean, well, and plus you kept throwing me like little like stuff that would send me off and blah, 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 land. And so, but anyhow, Scott, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And I can't wait to be on your show.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, sure. Actually, I got an opening on the 18th. So if you keen,
I will have to check and see.
There you go. So keep an eye out for that. Yes, we will start to wrap up. Where can people connect with you, Scott?
So you can go to my website, www.sixsenseacupuncture.com.au. You can also, if you're in Australia, call me on 0422 549 542. I'll put links in the chat anyway, in all your profiles, Aldwyn. I've also got it on my profile as well. So Scott Fox. I'm also Dr. Scott Fox on LinkedIn, and Sixth Sense Acupuncture on X, TikTok, and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I've just popped one of them up here there. Sixth Sense Acupuncture. That's spelled SIXTH. Sense, SENSCE. Sense, SEN.
Yeah, so the movie Sixth Sense. Remember the movie Sixth Sense? Bruce Willis?
Yes. Yeah, great movie. Acupuncture, ACUPUNCTURE.org. And then if you go /appointment, you'll be able to book a free appointment with Dr. Scott Fox. And you mentioned quite a few mottos. Is there a favorite motto that you have out of all those mottos you've mentioned in this show, Scott?
Yeah, the one that stands out for me is nature provides everything. If you have a problem, you just need to ask nature, and not only ask, but go and look for it, because nature does provide it. Just go and look for it, guys. It's out there. You just got to find it. You got to remember that we're in Australia. There's one continent. There's 7 or 8 continents. Now, come on, there's got to be an answer out there somewhere.
Yes, absolutely. And Ken, my amazing co-host, where can people connect with you, my friend?
My Linktree. And so there's a bunch of links on my Linktree when you go to it. The top 3 are the most important. First one is going to be a link to connect with me on my Facebook account. Now, just a note. So technically, I have 2 Facebook accounts. One of them, my main account, around December 4th, was hacked. And I have not gotten it back yet. So I've created a secondary account, which is Ken M. Kleinberg. And so that link in my link tree at the top, that's the new account link. The second link in my LinkedIn account you're going to find is a calendar link to book an appointment with me. Whether that's to find out more about what it looks like to hire me as a coach for you, to help you not only lose the weight, but help you to keep the weight off, just like I have, and have that be sustainable and without a diet. Or if you just want to book, a getting to know you call and just kind of exchange information. Let me get to know more about you. You get to know more about me. And it's just kind of like a networking call. Great. Book that appointment. Love to get on a Zoom call with you and get to know you better. Lastly, there's a link to my website, www.masteryweightloss.com. And you can find out more stuff about me there and all that stuff. And you can also view a preview of an upcoming masterclass that's getting ready to be launched. I just have to finish putting everything together. I've got all the videos recorded for that as well. And that is called The 7 Mastery Keys of Weight Loss. My Linktree account is www.linktr.ee/FatFighterKen.
Beautiful. And what's your favorite motto you'd like to share today?
So today's quote, in light of today's episode being the truth about how to get busy living, you cannot hope for motivation for the day. You must be intentional about it. Start your day with intention and be present in the moment.
Beautiful. Love that. And intention is actually my word for this year. So have a look back on my socials. You'll see what that stands for. We had an intentions lunch actually on the 2nd of January with a few friends here on the Gold Coast, and we all came up with a word for the year. So if you have a word for the year, my friends, joining us live or on the replay, let us know in the chat. What's your word for the year? Love to hear from you. Jeff says, good work, guys, from Manila. 2024 is going to be an amazing year. Yes, absolutely, Jeff. I'm with you on that one. And for those who want to connect with me, you can go to linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. You can book a call with me there. You can also check out the Global Good News Challenge, which is absolutely free. Every single month, it's a way you can practice getting into gratitude to make the most of your life. Okay, very, very powerful, very, very simple. In fact, I do it with my team every morning. Every morning we say, good morning. What are 3 things we are grateful for? And we talk about one thing we're grateful for on the bigger scale. It could be I'm grateful for the sun. Something smaller, I'm grateful for birds, and then something about ourselves we're grateful for my resilience, for example. So what are you grateful for today? Let us know in the comments there. I help people get out to the masses to be seen, heard, and known. So if you would like to know more about that, how we can build your influence and impact through the mass media, then book a connection call. Love to have a chat with you, and let's do that. So hop along there, linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. If you want to do the Global Good News Challenge, check out the Facebook page, Global Good News Challenge. And I will be doing another Step Up, Speak Up challenge coming up shortly. We're going to do a live event coming up in the next month or so too. So hop along to the Step Up, Speak Up Challenge Facebook group, and you'll get all the updates on that. And of course, Conscious Community Global, we mentioned earlier, life-changing documentaries that will blow your mind. So definitely check that out. And if you haven't subscribed to Media Queen TV yet, then I recommend hop along. Got over 1,000 videos there and lots of amazing content on Media Queen TV and Total Truth Show. So let's stay connected. If you've liked this episode, please let us know what you enjoyed about it, and share the love. If you know someone else needs to watch this episode, then share the love. And let's keep getting the word out and encouraging people to question everything. And my quote for the day is from Gandhi: be the change you wish to see in the world. And thank you for tuning in for this mammoth episode. And I know Scott has to run off to another appointment. Ken has to go to bed, and I've got other things to do too. So thank you for joining us for nearly 2 hours today. It's been an awesome episode. Any final words, Ken or Scott?
So not necessarily I got to go to bed. I got to eat dinner. So but anyhow, yes.
Awesome. And Scott, any final words?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for the time. As I said, Ken, if you could come on my podcast as well. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me, I'm 30 minutes, I do it for free. And I'll talk to you about all your health problems, and we'll try and solve it for you, because that's what I do. I solve health problems.
Beautiful. And if people are on a lot of medications and they come to you, just quickly, Scott, are you able to help people who are on a lot of medications?
Yeah. It comes back to their intention. So if their intention is to try and get off the medication, then yeah, definitely I can help them. But at the end of the day, if they have the mindset that they have to take the meds and they're reliant upon them, then it's very difficult to help them, because the problem is, as I said before, once you're on that treadmill, then yeah, you get that dominoes effect, and it's medication after medication. So yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Well, I'm sure any sort of natural health or any alternative health to I always say get multiple bits of advice. That's what I always say. One of my clients, Lorna Buckland, she was given 3 months to live by doctors 41 years ago. And so don't necessarily believe the first doctor you talk to. Get multiple opinions, do your own research, and that will give you the best fighting chance, so to speak, with any health condition, I'm sure. And sending you lots of love for an awesome 2024. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Scott. It's been fantastic to have you as our guest today. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Ken, my amazing co-host. And tune in. Make sure you like our Total Truth Show page on Facebook as well, and you'll get all the updates. And you can see all our previous 51 episodes, as well as on the podcast channels and multiple social media. Just search Total Truth Show. You'll find us everywhere. Lots of love. We'll see you again soon. Have an extraordinary day or night, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.